Hello everyone, happy October. Today I wanted to talk about some fall/October book recommendations I have. It's kind of hard to title this video because some people celebrate Halloween in October, like myself, but October also has like these really strong fall vibes, and so I wanted to include some books that just have fall vibes that might not be Halloween inspired, but then if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's not fall at all. So yeah, so I tried to have a variety of fall/spooky reads for today. So the first book on my list is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman, and I read this several years ago, so the plot of it isn't very fresh in my mind, and because of that, it would actually probably be a good reread for me, because I was reading back through my review of it, and I said in my review that parts of it made me really emotional, and I teared up a little, which I do not remember that at all. So whenever I do get emotional from a book, typically that means that I really enjoyed it. So this book is a middle grade book, and it is about a young boy who is orphaned and is raised by ghosts in a graveyard. And it's actually just really wholesome, and I loved seeing the community of these ghosts, and they're also caring and friendly. And so the plot of the book I did find boring a little bit. It takes a while to actually get going. But again, it is a middle grade book, and so keep that in mind. It's not very plot-centric. It is, at least to me, it's more about the atmosphere and the setting of these ghosts raising a kid in a graveyard. So yeah, I like this one, and again, it's probably one I should reread. I actually listened to the audiobook. I believe that the physical copy is illustrated, so that might be a good option too. But I listened to the audiobook from my library, and the audiobook has a full cast, and so that was really neat to hear all the different voices. Yeah, this is a great option for middle grade kids, or just, if you're looking for a light, kind of spooky story. So along those same lines, still middle grade, we have City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. And if you don't know, V.E. Schwab and Victoria Schwab is the same person, but for her YA and middle grade books, she goes by Victoria Schwab. This is a story about a girl and her cat, and she sees or befriends a ghost, but it's also kind of like a mystery story. So again, it's a light book aimed at that middle grade audience, so it's not going to be overly spooky, but it's just spooky enough if you like that light Halloween story. Like I mean, I like horror movies, but I also just enjoy like Halloween Town and the Disney Channel original Halloween movies. And so if you're into like the decoms, then you might also like more middle grade Halloween stories, and this is a really good one. So number 3 on my list is Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell, and Faith Erin Hicks actually illustrated this. It is a graphic novel, and it is not spooky at all. It's not a Halloween story. It is more of an October fall festival pumpkin patch story. So these two individuals are working at a pumpkin patch, and it's actually their last night. One or both of them is going to be going off to college the next year, and so this is like their last night working at this pumpkin patch that they work at every year. And you see them going around to all the different stations and like not solving problems, but like helping out, and it's really cute. It's not scary at all. It's just a heartwarming, really cute, short graphic novel to get you in that October mood. So number 4 on the list is The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. This is one of the few books I have ever given 5 stars upon the first read, because I liked it, and then the ending I loved, and so I really want to read it again because it was really good. But this, again, is not a spooky story, but it is set in November, and it really has like those fall vibes, and the town of Thisbe in particular kind of has like fall festival vibes, at least for me. And so, yeah, so I've talked about this book before in my top 10 favorite books video. I'll link that if you haven't seen it yet. But basically, there is a race in this town every year. It's actually like a small island called Thisbe, and every year they race these water horses, which are like these really like man-eating, intense, scary horses. They're not really rideable, but people try to ride them and race them, and whoever wins gets like a big prize or something. A lot of people die in this race every year. Like, the stakes are super high. And then our main character, Puck, is the first girl to ever enter the race, and she enters it on her regular horse, not a water horse named Dove. And so, like, people think, what are you doing? You are going to die. Yeah, it goes from there. And so it's not really a plot-centric book. It is very much a setting driven book, in my opinion. Like, most of the book is just experiencing the island of Thisbe and the different characters that live there. And I really liked it, and it just screams fall to me. Okay, so the fifth book on my list is Vicious by V.E. Schwab, the same author who wrote City of Ghosts. And I really wanted to include this because on my channel I'm like really harsh on V.E. Schwab, but she does write good books. People love her books. I tend to not like her writing style, but the premises are really good. So this book is an adult kind of sci-fi. I guess it's like a light sci-fi, but it could also be read and enjoyed by young adults as well. So when I read this book, I thought it was like a Frankenstein retelling, and it's not, but there are a lot of Frankenstein callbacks. Like, the main character's name is Victor. So the premise is, when people live through near-death experiences, they come back with superpowers. And the superpowers that they get tend to relate to the way that they died or almost died. And I don't want to say what any of the superpowers in the book is, because that's part of the reason why you read it. So that's the premise. It is kind of Frankenstein-esque. It's not really a Halloween book, but it does have those Halloween vibes where people are coming back from the dead. They're fighting each other, and yeah, it's just a very fall book to me. Okay, so the next book is The Girl with All the Gifts by, I did not look up this author's name. Is it M.R. Carey? I feel really bad because I did not put this book in my favorite books video, but I gave this book 5 stars. I really, really liked it. The movie I did not like as much. I saw the movie after I read the book, and I feel like that kind of made me like the book less. So you probably don't need to see the movie, but the book I loved. It is not a Halloween story, but it does include zombies, and it's very sci-fi. Like, it's a very sci-fi take on zombies, I guess, and I loved it. I thought it was super well written. I felt connected to all of the characters, like really connected to them, and I cared about what happened to them. And because it's, you know, a zombie story, it is frightening in some cases, and it does have a little bit of horror in there too. There are some scenes that can be disturbing, and I just love this book. Since it does include zombies, I feel like it would be a good October book to read. Okay, number 7, getting into more like modern, recently published books, is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I just read this past month and really liked it. It totally has like that haunted house feel to it, and it's a little spooky, a little gory. It's set in Mexico, which is really cool. It's also set in the 50s, but like, you can't really tell it's set in the 50s. Yeah, I had a good time with it. It was totally a book that got me in the fall mood and kind of inspired this video. And I know a lot of people have been reading it recently, and I think a lot of people go into it not knowing that it is a horror story. Like, I think, like, based on what I see on Goodreads, people go into it thinking it's more of a contemporary. So just know, it is horror. It does have some disturbing things in it, a lot of disturbing things. There are a lot of content warnings, so feel free to look those up if you're concerned about that. But if you're into a story that I think is similar to Crimson Peak, Get Out, and Mother, then you might really like this. Number 8, I can't believe I'm putting this book on a list, but number 8 is Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. I did not like this book, I'm gonna be honest. But when I went back and looked at my Goodreads review, I actually gave it 3 stars, so I didn't hate it. I thought I gave it 2 stars in my memory. I think in my mind, I hated it more than I actually did. But I had to read this for a class in college, so we had some good discussions about it. It is not a romance, so let me just say that. A lot of people go into this book thinking it's a romance. A lot of people come out of this book still thinking it's a romance. It's not a romance. If it is, it's a very disturbing romance. But I put this book on this list purely because of the setting. We have like these 2 isolated houses in the English wilderness on the moors, and it's just really like, I don't know, I picture it as very foggy, and the landscape is very untamed, and the civilization is pretty far away, so these houses are very isolated, and it just has those fall spooky vibes to it. And while nothing paranormal happens in this book as far as I'm aware, it is disturbing at times. Some disturbing things happen. And basically, everyone in this book is isolated and unhappy. So, perfect for fall. I don't know, a lot of people love this book, and I feel like I read the same story as a lot of the people whose Goodreads I follow, and like who I agree with many books on, and did not come away with the same feeling of that same story. So maybe I need to read it again and really appreciate it for its kind of twisted characters, because these characters aren't perfect, and I don't think that they're meant to be perfect. I think that they are meant to be flawed, and maybe I didn't appreciate that the first time going in. So anyway, perfect fall book. Of all the Brontë books I've read, I think this one is the most autumn. Okay, number 9. Again, we're kind of on the classic strain, but now we're into more like spooky stories. We have pretty much everything from Shirley Jackson. By Shirley Jackson, I have read We Have Always Lived in the Castle and The Haunting of Hill House, and they're both very, very good. They're very different from each other. We Have Always Lived in the Castle is more of a novella. It's a shorter story. And that one I feel is pretty character driven, and the whole time you're kind of wondering like, what has happened to make these people this way? Whereas The Haunting of Hill House is more of, it's not horror, it's more like terror, but it is more of a haunted house story where like the characters are important and you get to know them, but it's more about the house that they're in. I think the house is really the main character, and I know that sounds a little weird, but if you read the book, you kind of understand. And her writing is just so rich and elegant, but also I can't even describe it right. I'm not doing her justice. Yeah, she also wrote The Lottery. If you've read that, it's a short story. It's very good. I want to read some of her other stories that I have in this collection, because everything I have read from her I really, really like. So, yes. Read Shirley Jackson. Okay, and the last book on the list is one of my favorite stories, and I think it's one of the stories I just love more and more over time. It is I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. I really need a better copy, because this mass market paperback with all my post-its, it's really not doing it justice, because I think people see this and they think of the movie, which, don't get me wrong, I love the movie. But in my mind, they are very separate stories. Like, I forget that the movie is based on the novella, because it's like they live in two different pockets of my brain. But it's so good. Again, it is more of a sci-fi. I would consider it more of a sci-fi than a horror story. But we do have vampires, and we do have the last human alive, and everything that comes with the loneliness, the isolation, the guilt, the regret, the depression. You see him go through so much. You see him have flickers of hope, and then those flickers of hope getting stamped out. And it's just so well written. So much, I don't want to say so much happens, but so much is explored in such a short amount of time. And again, it looks like this is a big paperback, but my copy actually has short stories in it, so it really ends like here. So it's really just like 159 pages. And if you see my videos, I hate long books. I really appreciate stories that can get a lot done in a short amount of time, and I Am Legend definitely does that. If you haven't read it, take a day or two to just get through it. And the audiobook is also great. I think it's like maybe 5 hours long. Definitely short enough to get through pretty quickly. And I can't praise it enough. I just really, really love it. And it's totally a great October read because you do have vampires in it. Since he is the last one alive, you have that sense of dread of like, what's going to happen next? How is he going to get through this? And that is the feeling that I look for in October books. So yeah, definitely give this one a go. Okay, I hope these reviews were helpful. I tried to include a variety. I hope they were helpful for you. Let me know what books you go back to in October, or October fall reads that you are looking forward to getting to. Okay, I gotta go now because it's starting to rain, so bye! Either that October spooky mood, the autumn, how do I say autumn, autumnal? Autumnal? And Rex is like sniffing at my door. He's like, Mama, are you in there? You normally film with me in the room. Why did you kick me out? When people experience near-death experiences, those too many experiences. Is it meant to be a Frankenstein retelling? Like, was she inspired by Frankenstein? I don't know. So, yeah, maybe give this a shot if you're into like classics. If you're not into classics, you probably won't like it. If you are, I don't know. Because, it's just that she's so good. She's such a good writer. I can't even. Okay, fangirl moment. I hope that you find these reviews helpful.